I just got run over, and I don't know, like, why they're not rushing me and telling me we need to get going. I don't understand this new reality, this non-physical, heavenly reality that I'm in. Though it's beautiful, and I'm taking it all in. I'm looking at these videos going by, these images, and these wonderful memories, and we come to the point where the last memory I have, which is being hit by this pickup truck and flying through the air and leaving my body, and I turned to her like, okay, now what? And she said, hold on, there's something else I need to show you. Today's video is brought to you by Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. If you've ever been seriously hurt, your injury could be worth millions. Morgan & Morgan doesn't settle for lowball offers. They've achieved some of the largest verdicts in recent months, like $26 million in Florida and $12 million in Philadelphia, far exceeding insurance offers. Their fee is absolutely free unless you win. Morgan & Morgan is committed to fighting for you if you become their client. If you've been in an accident, you're only a few clicks away from potentially changing your life. You can check out www.forthepeople.com/theotherside to submit a claim today. Morgan & Morgan will fight the compensation you deserve if you become their client. And remember, fighting big companies requires a big law firm. Morgan & Morgan is ready to take on insurance companies of any size. You can check out Morgan & Morgan today at www.forthepeople.com/theotherside or click the link in the description below. Don't wait. Take the first step toward protecting your rights. Hello, everybody. My name is Jon Miller. I'm very honored for the opportunity to speak about a near-death experience that I had. And the unique thing is that it's today, June 30th, is the actual day that I was run over and died by a pickup truck 24 years ago. A little background on me. I was kind of brought up in a very normal, boring, Midwestern, leave it to beaver kind of lifestyle in Ohio. And there was one thing that was always kind of in the back of my mind as a young man growing up there in this boring lifestyle was I always wanted to move to California. I always wanted to be where the sunshine was and everybody out in their bathing suits on the beach and swimming. So that was always in the back of my mind, though there wasn't much opportunity. You go through school and growing up, I didn't have a lot of money to make that big move. And so I got involved a little bit in the record and film industry, working at record stores and managing a couple of them, and also meeting some interesting people along the journey. And I had a friend, Eric, who kept asking me about moving out towards California, and I said I don't really have any opportunity or way to get there. And he said, well, I'm going to college in San Diego. You're more than welcome to come out and visit if you like. That kind of planted the seed in my mind. And during this period of time, I was always listening to music like Rick Springfield and thinking to myself, yeah, someday I'm going to work in Hollywood. I'm going to work for Rick Springfield and make all these dreams that are so important and they keep replaying in my mind come into fruition. So I put a large sum together, $452 I spread together, and a bug convertible and drove out to California. And sure enough, Eric was there and allowed me the opportunity to get my footing and to attempt to go and be part of the Hollywood TV film industry. Well, lucky for me, the first studio I went to, I showed up and basically told them I wanted to work in film and TV. And in most cases, they would laugh at you and tell you to move along, and you have no career, you have no past, no family to work in Hollywood or producers that would give you that opportunity. But this woman said, you know what? We have a movie that we're starting on Monday with Anthony Perkins from Psycho, and you look a lot like him. Have you ever been a body double? And I lied. I said, yes, I had been a body double. I knew how to be a body double, though I had no idea what that term was. And she gave me the opportunity to work on Monday morning at a studio filming a movie in the deep woods as Anthony Perkins' body double, opening the door for a dream come true. From that point on, I parlayed that day and that moment and that opportunity into a 30-year career in TV and film, working with a lot of big names in television and film. and also getting the opportunity to fulfill an aspect of my dream. To get into now the aspect in regards to how I got to San Diego and where that ties into my near-death experience, I was at the studio working on another television show. Manhattan AZ was the show that I was working on at this time when we hit my broke for lunch break. Well, it's Friday, June 30th. 2000, and I left the studio during our 45-minute lunch break to quickly run down to the Wells Fargo on the street corner, only about 2 or 3 blocks from the studio, to cash my paycheck. So I'm out and I'm walking around and I'm looking and I'm saying, wow, what a beautiful day it is, and to be able to be out living in San Diego, living my dreams, and being able to take this walk and this jog to Wells Fargo. I was quite excited, not just because of living my dreams, but I was excited because I was getting the opportunity to date this gal that I had met. Her name was Gina, and continuing this story, I'm jogging down Ruffin Road towards Claremont Mesa Boulevard, and as I approached the intersection around noon, it was quite busy, and there was a lot of traffic and a lot of people, and as I go to start to cross the intersection, several cars pull up into the crosswalk, and riding a group of young people, and I could see they had all their drinks up on the dash, and they weren't really looking, and I thought to myself, I'd better go behind them, or when this light turns green, I'm going to get run over. So I go behind the vehicle, I'd cross over the second lane, and then as I'm going into the final lane to get onto the island, at the halfway point, I see a white flash out of the corner of my eye, and it's a white Ford pickup truck. And I get struck from the left side of my body, and I go over the hood into the windshield, using my face, my head, to punch a hole through the windshield, and the vehicle was going at a good rate. They said between 35 and 40 miles an hour, sent me flying through the air, and as I'm flying through the air, I leave my body, and now I'm seeing my body in the air, about 15 feet up in the air, and I can see the truck, I can see the gentleman driving the truck, and I can see the glass from my body had gone through my face and my head had gone through the truck windshield. I just keep going, and next thing I know, I am in this beautiful white, glowing, almost like being inside a cloud, I guess you could say, room. And I'm looking around, and to my right is this beautiful angel. And I just say she's an angel because that's kind of how I interpreted her. She was pretty and she was glowing, and I think see through her transparent, but I wasn't exactly sure because it was just she and I up here in this beautiful white loving space, and we start talking, and it's all telepathic. There's no words. I'm not saying anything with my mouth. We're just having this deep conversation, and the conversation contains emotion. It contains everything that you spend quite a lot of time here on earth attempting to achieve, like I am right now, using my words to express a scenario of a moment in time. It's done spontaneously, and it contains color, light, emotion, sound, everything, feelings that you could possibly imagine, and it's all being done instantaneously, telepathically. So we're speaking, and she told me to turn and let's look at this, which I didn't know what it was, this. So I turned, and we're both looking at what I started to see was my life. And it was visions and images which contained emotion, contained smells. I could smell the Christmas tree with my family, my brother, my sister, my mom and dad, and I are all sitting around opening up Christmas gifts on Christmas Day. And that's some of my fond memories, and that was what kind of began this whole timeline of your life. And every scene, everything that you experience is as if you're re-experiencing it, and you're there watching yourself in this moment. And the timeline continues on, and in the back of my mind while I'm watching this, I'm thinking, I just got run over, and I don't know, like, why they're not rushing me and telling me that, hey, we're on a clock here, we need to get going. I don't understand the whole premise of this new reality, this non-physical, heavenly reality that I'm in. But it's beautiful, and I'm taking it all in. I'm looking at these videos going by, these images, and these wonderful memories of all my time up there, down below on Earth, or wherever Earth is compared to heaven. And we come to the point where the last memory I have, which is being hit by this pickup truck and flying through the air and leaving my body, we come to that moment, and I turned to her like, okay, now what? And she said, hold on, there's something else I need to show you. So I look back at this reading experience I'm having, and at a grassy knoll, yet I'm not there. There's this beautiful young woman and a young boy who are there, and they're playing baseball, but I'm not there. yet I know who she is and I know who he is. And she is the woman that I married, and that boy is my son. I ended up asking her, where am I? And she said, well, you no longer exist. And that was kind of hard because this was my dream. And I always wanted to have a son, and I always wanted to be married. So I said, well, this is my life. And this is my future. I need to be there. And that's when she looked at me in the eyes and she asked me, is that your choice? I said, yes, this is my choice. And you didn't think of anything else or see another image or even say anything to her. I find myself back in my physical body on Earth. And I realized that I have a split second to make a choice on how I'm going to land when I physically hit the ground now that I'm back on Earth. So I put my hands behind me as to protect or to keep my head from hitting the pavement when I strike the ground. And I end up messing my hands up pretty good. I fractured both my wrists and I ripped a lot of flesh off the palms of my hands. I have a fractured spine and my face was pretty badly messed up, and I take glass out of my face whenever I shave. Now and then I'd feel something sharp glass would come out of my face. And I did hit the ground. I did break those bones, and I did jump right up because I never lost consciousness. And this whole experience was not an experience as I was out physically unconscious. I was conscious through this whole experience. When an impact like that occurs, you don't come back the same. I definitely did not come back the same person that left this earth and went to heaven for whatever time I was there. Though it seemed like I was there for quite a long time, here on earth, there was no time. I left were the exact same place and came back to the exact same place in which I had left, which I find very unique. And it's part of my experience now here on earth is that I believe time is what you make it, and that, we're here for specific reasons, which I believe are to learn lessons, to learn how to love unconditionally and how to accept others and not to be judgmental and to be an open conduit for love for all of us so that we can all learn and love together. And though I pretty much grew up as a young man Lutheran and in a Lutheran church and attending church every Sunday and being a part of catechism and altar boy, I remember lighting candles and doing all that. That's not a main component of my life moving forward or my thought process or I'm more spiritual. I don't really have a lot of religious, though I've read pretty much every religious text out there in my search for an understanding of my experiences and what we're all doing here, experiencing on Earth, and what we're here to learn. That seems to be somewhat almost of an obsession as to apply these lessons and to understand what we're doing here. So when I hit the ground, I then could hear again the sound of shattered glass and car tires screeching. I could hear people yelling, and I got up immediately and walked right over to the gentleman's truck. The front windshield was pretty much knocked out from my head. I went to the side window and I leaned in and I asked him if he was okay, and he was crying and he was on his phone and said, please, you need to go lay down or go sit down. And he pointed over to the curb. And so I kind of walked over to the curb and sat down. And at that point, I started taking inventory of my physical body and realized I was pretty badly messed up. And then people started coming up and asking if they were going to hand me their phone to make a phone call. And then they saw my hands and they said, well, I'll call for you. And I asked one young woman to call the studio and let them know that I wasn't going to be coming back from lunch. Next thing I hear is the sirens of a distant ambulance, and a young man that hit me was standing next to me and he was still crying. And I reached up to him, I held his hand, and I said, it's going to be okay, I'll be okay, don't worry. And that's another unique thing I really need to press upon people is being so fresh from heaven and coming back to earth. You're so humble and you're so full of love and so full of happiness that to have that experience, I was elated by just being back, and I was so excited and so happy to be amongst humans again. And I was holding his hand and I told him I was going to be okay. And then the ambulance showed up and they strapped me on a wood gurney. And once I arrived there at the hospital, they took an x-ray, I think, of my leg, a couple x-rays, and then they wheeled me back into the surgical area and then started to sew me up. I was advised that I left a chunk of my back there on the truck windshield, so they went ahead and sewed me up as best they could. And I remember the doctor mentioning that there's a chunk of me missing, but they think they could sew me up and make it look pretty good, which was fine for me. I didn't really care. And then my hands, those were pretty messed up. They gauzed up both my hands and my face. And then my girlfriend at that time showed up and they gave me my clothes back. And they said, look, we have some concerns because your face and your head went through the windshield. We can't keep you here, so you're free to leave, but we think it'd be best if you stayed for some more tests. And I said, no, I didn't know what to leave. I was a stuntman, so I was used to being beat up. And I left with her. And wasn't much longer than maybe 10, 15 minutes. We got home, but I got up to use the restroom and go in the bathroom, and I blacked out and hit the floor. And I woke up to her dabbing me with a cold washcloth, and I'm like, what are you doing? So she said, don't ever do that again. And your eyes rolled to the back of your head and you scared me to death. And I said, I'm fine. Everything's okay. And went back and she helped me back to the sofa where I pretty much never spent much time sitting down. I knew that it was important that I kept moving, getting up and walking around through my healing process. And in my conversation with the doctors, they said you need to go back and get all the sutures removed from your leg and from your back, and I've been to other places I had sutures. And upon my return, they said, when you arrived here, you were in critical condition, and right now, after removing these sutures, we believe you've had an immaculate healing of some sort, and we'd like to interview you, and we'd like to know what happened. And I was somewhat embarrassed about being run over and being ignored for my physical attributes, my body and everything. And so I kind of put a lot of this behind me and didn't talk much of it. I really never spoke much, and I had a hard time walking for about a year. Afterwards, I couldn't walk straight, and I didn't tell many people about that. And it probably was from a concussion that was never diagnosed, and I never did get an MRI to check to see if I actually had a concussion. But I guess if my head went through the windshield, I probably did. So about a year, I was really careful. As long as I watched the ground, I could walk straight. That was pretty much the end of the tail end of my film career. A couple other interesting things now that I've come back, that I don't see myself, my soul, as being sacred, because there are multiple times where I was living where somebody would hit a deer, run over a deer, and that the deer would be out in the middle of the street, still alive. And I would just tell people, stop the car, and I would jump out of the car and I'd run over and I would carry the deer off the road to the side and be with it until it passed. That was one instance around Christmas that I did that. One other final instance I need to speak of is really significant in my life was the opportunity in San Diego. I was boating, sailing with a friend and a couple of people on board, and we were above on deck, and he had motioned to me. His name's Dell. He's very significant person in my life and has been somewhat of an angel for me. He motioned for me to come up and stay with him up in the sail. So I did, and I both standing there in this beautiful view, and I'm looking around and I'm thinking, Mom, when this wind changes direction, this is going to kick us right out of here. And I said, Dell, what's the chance of us getting tipped off the sail? And he said, oh, no chance at all. Well, out of nowhere, this wind came in and knocked him flying out of the sail, and he went overboard, and so a voice in the back of my mind said, go. And I jumped overboard with him, and he was choking, and I was hyperventilated. I was, hard time catching my breath. And I just was scalding water, or just kind of keeping my head above the water. And he was choking, and I thought, well, I told him, look, I'm not going to get close to you, but I will not let you drown. I've been a lifeguard and a swimming instructor for quite a few years, so I was pretty confident in my swimming skills. So I'm just sitting there smelling water and making sure that he didn't go under. And the boat, they finally realized we had gone overboard, came around, and they threw a life ring over. So I grabbed it, swam over, and I gave it to him. So in my mind, I think, okay, great, now he's above water. I can handle this water below and just keep my head above water. And then the boat came on a second time, and this time they ran him over, and they went right over top of him. And I could hear his fingers making a squeaking noise along the boat as the yacht as it went over him. And I thought, oh my gosh. So I dove down, and about 6 feet under, I made contact with him, grabbed him, and pulled him up And at this point, he was blue, almost kind of purple blue, and the boat was close enough, the sailboat, but I could get him on board. And they got him, grabbed him, pulled him up on board. And then I climbed up and sat above. We took him down below, and thank goodness, about half an hour later, he came up wrapped in a blanket, and he was okay. But we're both still shivering and quite shocked from the experience. I'm glad that that voice, the angel, whatever it was that I heard, told me to go get him, to bring him, and safely we both made it back on board. And again, to this day, he's been a wonderful friend, and I really wish and love him, and he's a good soul and somewhat of an angel in my life. And finally, one last thing I wanted to mention regarding that voice and that soul is ever since I've had the near-death experience, I hear now and then, out of the blue, what I don't know, I'm not expecting, I'll hear a voice, and it'll tell me or sometimes show me things that I need to be aware of. I just need to say that the lessons I've learned and the whole experience that I have had in heaven and being able to come back is nothing short of a miracle. And I even quit drinking alcohol. I used to drink a lot of beer, and one day I was just taking a walk, and I remember just kind of having a conversation with that voice and saying, I really would like to quit, and I really don't see any positive reason for me to be drinking. So I quit one day, and it was the easiest thing to do. And now that I realize that some of the things that are the most difficult really are truly some of the easiest things that you can experience or that you can change in your life, you just need to ask for that support and ask for that guidance, that it will present, the opportunity will present itself. I do believe there is heaven. I do believe that we're here to learn our lessons, and that the whole reason we're here is to love and to love each other, and to be understanding that there is an unfathomable, uncountable layer of souls that are everything you could possibly think of, and that we just need to be here and understand and accept each other and to love each other for our differences. And that's pretty much what I've received, and pretty much my guiding light in my life is just to follow my heart and to follow love and the light, and everything will be okay. So thank you for the opportunity to express my near-death experience, and I want to thank the other side, NDE, for allowing me this platform, and I hope that it touches somebody out there in the darkness, that they realize that they just need to, as it's there to embrace you and to help you on your journey. So thank you very much, and I wish everyone the very best.